You're listening to the Gutsy podcast, where we talk about all things real, raw, and ridiculous about running a business authentically. Whether you need an inspirational pick-me-up or a swift kick in the mental ass, the Gutsy podcast is your bi-weekly guide to getting out of your head and back into action. I'm Laura Ora, branding and mindset coach for female entrepreneurs, CEO of Works & Co., and your host on this journey through entrepreneurship. It's time to fuel your Gutsy. As a small business owner, content creation and strategy is always on the brain. I personally also know how much time and effort it can take to plan, write, schedule, and post all of your stuff. And then let's add in multiple platforms. It can be a lot. Today, we're talking to social media expert Elena Nakhoumovski about how to create a content strategy that sells for you and converts your watchers into clients. Elena is the founder and CEO of Firstly Marketing. She helps CEOs manage their social media accounts with magnetic content and a custom strategy. She developed a signature method to strategize content creation, which helped her become fully booked and be able to quit her 9-to-5 job. Now she's helping her clients do the same. Elena, thanks so much for being here and welcome to the Gutsy podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. So Elena is in LA. I am in Pennsylvania, so we are in opposite coast having opposite weather.
Totally, yeah. That's one of the reasons why I actually moved here, because the snow, oh my gosh, and the cold, I cannot stand it. So
yes,
it's definitely much warmer here.
I am channeling my inner LA through you today. So
love that.
So speaking of you, I love this part of your story you shared with me, is you went from living in an old basement in New York City, going to school during the day, waitressing at night, and now you live in LA, live in a luxury dream apartment, and make dream income all from your house. So Tell us about your story. I love to hear this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thinking back to that, I definitely remember that old basement apartment. We even had, we eventually moved out from there because, unfortunately, we had Hurricane Sandy, which kind of like flooded everything. We had to start over. Really rough, winters and hurricane seasons for sure over there. So we definitely, after we moved, and that's about when I started going to college. So obviously I needed to make money. And I remember just sitting in my room. I had this like big mood board of my dream life. I had like palm trees and like dream amazing apartments on there, and I was just dreaming of a better life for myself. And I decided, like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Like, I was almost 18. I almost finished my college. I went to school during the day and worked at night, and I eventually saved up enough money, and then we actually moved here with my boyfriend. And now, from there we worked as well, and now we're here. So yeah.
Amazing. So what was that time period like? How long was that from looking at that mood board to moving into your dream apartment?
Yeah, definitely. So we've been here in LA for about 3 years. So I want to say like 3 years ago, I was working all throughout college basically. So about a year of working, and then we moved here 3 years ago.
Amazing. So I think these stories are always so important to share because it's proof that it can happen, right? And
Absolutely.
it can happen sooner than you think. And when you really put your mind to something and then back it up with inspired action, you can be quite literally sitting inside the things that were once on your mood board.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
So content is your jam. That's your life. That's your job. That's your passion. Talk to me a little bit about what the difference between strategy and content creation is.
Definitely, yeah. So a lot of social media managers, like myself, they do mostly content, and I like to kind of differentiate myself in the fact that we do strategy as well. So, content is just, oftentimes clients will have some content of their own, or we can actually create content for them and just post it essentially and kind of manage their social media. And then where the strategy portion comes in is really going in and doing the research, right? So really planning if they have a launch or if they have really specific goals, you go in there and you research and you create almost like a outline or a blueprint of how you want to get there. So that is exactly what I love doing. I'm a total planner as well. So that's definitely something that I think is really important to offer for clients as well, because it really is that thing that takes, your social media to the next level, as opposed to just posting content just to post to have a presence. You're really taking it to the next level with the strategy, and having a really clear and solid plan. Yeah.
Why is that so important? Like, besides taking you out of like, oh crap, what do I post today? And then, forgetting what is really like the depth of the importance of the strategy?
Yeah, definitely. So oftentimes, in terms of expertise, that's where we kind of come in. So a lot of times clients, like you said, kind of don't know what to post, but we take it further in the fact that we actually do all the work for them. So we actually research and really, keep up with trends, as opposed to like some clients, they don't want to sit there and like research about the algorithm and like all these new trends. So we're really saving them so much time just in the fact that we're, doing all of that work ourselves. And then we're actually implementing the strategy for them. And then that way they can see way better results. They can get, higher return on their investment and really show up in a more strategic way that really helps them stand out from competition as well. Because you can post, about trends, or you can post whatever it is that you want, but it's really all about standing out and actually understanding and reaching your goals in a better way, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So the strategy is really, like you mentioned earlier, it's the blueprint. So I think a lot of the stuff like building a house. In order to be able to decorate your home, you have to first have a house, right? And to have a
Mhm.
house, you have to have a blueprint.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just kind of piecemealing things together. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the strategy sounds like the blueprint, and the content and the engagement sounds like the finishing touches of decorating your home.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah.
I like visuals. I'm a very visual person. And I know
And
sometimes too, this stuff can be really overwhelming for people, right? Like
yes.
it takes a lot of time. It does take effort. Like, there's a big, I think, mindset switch when you go from posting in the moment to really like planning things out.
Yeah.
And that's a big leap. Do you see that with your clients?
Absolutely. And that's like the number one concern that I hear. Whenever they come to me, they're like, Elena, I just hate doing content. Like, I don't want to spend hours and hours on Canva designing, like writing captions. I just want to focus on my clients, and I want to actually work less, like I don't want to spend my entire day from like 8 to 6, right? We all start our business because we want more time freedom, more financial freedom. And that is why I love what I do also, because, and like I said, kind of the strategy, like it really takes us to that next level. In terms of actually planning a launch and like actually really giving them that solid roadmap. And that's why they come to us, right? Because they don't want to do it themselves, and they really don't have to worry about that. So yeah,
Right.
that's what I love about that.
Awesome. So from the strategy standpoint, how far in advance do you recommend that people plan out their content? Keep in mind that a lot of our listeners are probably managing their own social media accounts and are really hungry for like how do I make this easier for me? So how far in advance do you suggest that they are starting to strategize and plan things out?
Yeah, definitely. So I always like to say it kind of depends on like the goals that we have, but typically I do content about a month in advance. So I just kind of take a week, do the strategy, and then we kind of schedule everything in advance for a month or so. But if you have more specific goals, like a launch for a new product, or a business launch in general, you want to take up to like 3 months sometimes to really map out all the stages of the launch. So not just content, right? You also want to make sure that you're bringing in leads constantly, new people are seeing you, and then you're nurturing your audience as well. All of that is really part of the launch, and that's where it kind of goes to the next level. Instead of just the content, what you're going to post for those 3 months, you're also taking the marketing aspects, and like what you're going to post on stories, how you're going to interact with people, and that's really where the whole planning comes in, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's an important piece too, when you mentioned launching a few times. So when we're
Mhm.
talking about launching a new product, launching a new service, opening a new membership, like whatever, like, it is available now.
Yeah.
When we talk about that, I know that there's often a lot of frustration with like, oh, I put in all this time, money, and effort and nobody's buying it. Do you think that a lot of times that comes down to the lack of content strategy?
Yeah, definitely. So there could definitely be a lot of reasons. Oftentimes what I find is really consistency and having those other aspects that I kind of mentioned. So I like to kind of before like 3 months in advance, I usually focus on a lot of lead generation and engagement so that you're bringing all of these new people, all these new eyeballs on your offer. And then let's say 2 months in advance, that's the nurturing stage. You're really in there engaging and DMing people and really building those relationships. And come launch month, you're really ready to sell and your audience to warm. So that's, all of those stages I feel like really need to be focused on just as much as the selling stage, because oftentimes I feel like people just skip that and they're like, okay, time to sell, but the audience is not warm enough. And in turn, no one ends up buying. So definitely a lot of factors that we kind of have to consider there.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that you pointed out, like, if you're not nurturing and talking about it, they're not warm, meaning like
Right.
you're just kind of like popping out of the bushes and being like, hey, do you want to buy this from me? And like
Exactly.
people are like, whoa, excuse me. Like imagine doing that on the street, right? Like you're walking down the street and like literal people just like pop out of nowhere and they're like, hey, I've never met you before, but do you want to buy this? And it's a turnoff, right? Like
Exactly.
people shy away from that. And so your social media presence is the same. It's still an interaction. It's still human connection. It just happens to be on a different platform.
Absolutely, yeah. And I like that kind of analogy. Sometimes you see those like salespeople in the mall are like pushing products on you the
Yes.
first time. Exactly, that's what I thought of. And it really is the same on your social media. And I like to kind of give the example of like you come across like a coach or something and you see they only have like one or two posts. Are you gonna buy from them? Probably not, right? Because that kind of stuff really does take consistency, building your audience and really showing results, and like a lot of things really go into that. So definitely consistency is like the most important thing as well.
Hmm. What do you find are some of the top things that hold people back from posting on social media?
Definitely like not knowing what to post, right? So that's, a really common question that I also get. And also understanding how to post content that's actually going to convert people. So whether it's a product-based or service-based business, they usually want to have some sort of a purpose behind the posting, because, maybe if they are really stagnant with their followers and they're just like, what do I do to grow? Like a lot of people really want to grow. And content is obviously going to play a really big role in that. But definitely the thing that I see the most is like not knowing what to post, not knowing what to do to grow the page as well.
Hmm. That and I think time too, right?
Time
Like
as well. Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to plan things out. I don't have time to write all these
Yeah,
things. I don't have time to schedule it. What is your answer to the lack of time concern?
definitely. Yeah. So if you're a bigger kind of established brand already, you definitely outsource. Even for me, like things that I know that I like, you have to know what you're good at and what you're bad at, right? And bad things, just outsource it, right? Focus on whatever you're good at. And if you're kind of a lower level, maybe solopreneur or like a smaller business, definitely utilize scheduling tools, right? So really plan out your content. Take one day, take pictures, plan out your content. Create maybe like a strategy or something, and then just schedule it out in advance. And that way, you can really focus on your marketing, DMing people, whatever it is that you have to do, and running your business essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, I can speak from personal experience. It is substantially easier to plan out your content when you just like get into it and stay into it.
Yes.
Like I think part of the struggle is like doing a little here and a little there and then, answering a bunch of calls and then coming back to it, and you just end up so distracted. You basically have to restart the wheel every single time. Whereas
Hmm.
when I'm in content strategy mode or content creation mode, that's all. That's it. And I had to learn that the hard way. I'll be honest. It wasn't just like, oh,
Hmm.
this is magically just what works. No, I had to screw things up for a while to figure out what worked. And I can tell you that when you just like immerse yourself in it and you stay in that zone, you can do it so much more efficiently.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And that's what I do as well. I just take one day, I put on my headphones, I maybe light up a candle, and I really get creative and in the zone, because as business owners, especially when creating content, we really have to be creative on demand sometimes, right? So especially if you're not like a social media manager or like, content person, it can be hard to kind of create content as you go throughout the week. And it's much easier to kind of sit down, really get in the vibe, get some inspiration, create all the content all at once, and then just schedule it.
and then schedule it out.
Mhm.
What are some tools that you recommend for planning, scheduling, and just kind of maintaining social media as a whole? What are some of your favorite tools?
Yeah, so number one, Canva. I love it. I really recommend the premium as well. It's much worth it. There's a lot more things you can do, and it's really great. You can create Instagram posts, stories, email stuff like for your website, like whatever you need, they have it essentially. And then scheduling, I just love Facebook, honestly. Facebook Creator Studio, you go in there, you log in with your account, it's free. You can schedule carousels, IGTVs in advance, and I really love that as well. And then what else? I like Dubsado, but that's like more so towards client management. It's really easy to send invoices and emails and all that good stuff. So those are like my top three.
Amazing. So the Facebook manager that you talked about,
Mhm.
you can manage Facebook and Instagram using that, correct?
Yeah, so you post right on Instagram and Facebook at the same time. It's really easy. But then if you want to post on other platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, Hootsuite is really great as well. They have a wide variety of platforms.
Yes, I love Hootsuite for all the like there's not many that you can schedule LinkedIn. And if
Yeah,
LinkedIn is part of your social strategy, Hootsuite is great. I use that in my team and I use that and it's phenomenal because it allows you to schedule out tweets on Twitter. It allows you to schedule LinkedIn. And then if you wanted to, you could also do Facebook and Instagram as well.
yeah.
But the Facebook Manager is really nice. That's really come a long way in the last couple of months.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now with all the new updates and Meta, it's really coming along, and I think a lot of people are going to start kind of noticing it more now.
Agreed. And one of the biggest things that you mentioned too with using Facebook Manager is scheduling carousels.
Yes, I actually
That's a
like.
big deal.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, because I used to use Later myself, and then part of the reason why I kind of stopped, and I found Facebook Creator Studio, and it's free, obviously, and then they really had that limitation for carousels. So Facebook obviously allows that, which is a lifesaver because I would have to manually schedule everything. You can understand it gets pretty tedious. But yeah, that's why I love it as well, the carousels.
Yeah. And for anyone that's listening, just in case you're not familiar with carousels, if you're ever on Instagram and you see that people have multiple images within a post, where you're swiping left or right to go back and forth, those are carousels. And most apps don't allow you to just like auto push it, meaning when you schedule it, it gives you a reminder and you still have to go in and manually do it. So this Facebook app that we're talking about, which is free, by the way, we'll link it in the show notes. You can now schedule it and it'll just auto post on its own like magic.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes. One of my other favorite tools I'd love to share too is Planoly. Planoly is, I think, very similar to Later, which is what you mentioned earlier. The reason I like Planoly, you can't do carousels, so I'm kind of waiting for them to get on the bandwagon with that. But it's visual. So it's a drag and drop system, and you can plan out your grid, you can plan out your hashtags. There's like saved hashtag lists, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time or copy and paste from your notes section. It just really helps to streamline. So, particularly if you're working with a lot of visuals, Planoly or Later can be really phenomenal for those things.
Definitely, yeah.
Look, I am a straight nerd when it comes to quality paper and amazing printing. When we're talking about your branding, we're talking about your presence, we're talking about really taking up space. Remember that your printed materials are an extension of that. And when I talk about printed materials, I'm talking about your business cards, I'm talking about postcards that you might send out. You know that the power of print, the power of receiving something physical in the mail today is incredible. My go-to printer for all things amazing is moo.com. Moo is killing it in the online printing space by creating quality materials that don't break the bank. We're talking buttery soft paper, foil for days, clear spot varnish, brochures, business cards, you name it, they're printing it incredibly. So if you also want to nerd out on some paper and impress your clients at the same time, go to the show notes and click on the moo.com link to save 25% off your first order. So you believe that there are three aspects that help a business grow and thrive on social media. Would you be willing to share those with us?
Yeah, definitely. So, consistency, like I kind of mentioned before, is definitely number one. For me, I start sharing this more often now. Just a real honest truth. Like I see a lot of people, posting, oh my gosh, I made my first like six figures in 6 months or whatever. But me, I didn't make a dime my first 3 months of business, right? And it's really about building those solid foundations and engaging and bringing in this audience and, posting consistently so people see that you're in the game, like you're actually, what you're talking about. And eventually it really did get to that point where I started getting traction, I started getting more clients, and then finally, I was able to be booked out. So definitely consistency is number one. Then I would also, probably say strategy. Definitely really understanding what you're posting, strategically doing it, and really having a plan behind the content because it really can help you, sell and convert people almost on autopilot sometimes. Like I don't even have to really talk to anyone in the DMs that much anymore. So really having that content sell for you, right? So storytelling, really making sure you're putting yourself out as an authority. And even for product-based businesses, posting the product is really great. And that's part of like attraction marketing, which I love using as well. Essentially, it's showing your audience how great your offer or your product is. And they're going to come to you. They're going to buy from you. So you don't have to actually, actively sell. They're actually going to see how amazing it is, how people love it, kind of like with influencer marketing, and they're going to come to you and buy it from you. And then definitely, number three, I would probably say having some sort of a community. Nowadays, like people are kind of hesitant and they know when they're being sold to, right? You can, like, people are moving away from those ads on television and really being directly sold to. They're moving more so towards, influencer marketing, especially with smaller influencers, because there's more of that level of trust. And same with like service-based businesses, we want to feel like we're part of a community, and we really crave that, personalized, almost like a friendship in a sense, as opposed to just being sold to and talked at. We want to be talked to, right? We want to be part of the conversation. And I love kind of incorporating all of those aspects with my clients and with my own marketing because it really is, something that's really important. And just more so be more laid back. Like that's why TikTok, I think, is so big right now, and a lot of brands are jumping on it. Is because it's more authentic, and it's not like you're being sold to directly. It's kind of like, oh, I'm chatting with my best friend, and then you end up buying the product because you like it so much. So yeah.
I agree. The community aspect is huge. I mean, we've really shifted into an era of business where people only want to purchase from businesses and people that they feel aligned with.
Yes.
And so by creating that community, meaning like you're letting them in, they know who you are, you're real with them. Like it's not scripted, perfectly crafted content. It's just like real humans, right? Because
Absolutely.
real humans have always been behind these brands, but it's not been until recently that that has been celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Definitely.
it's not about being perfect. I think that's a big thing to take away when you're creating content. Is like if you're trying to create like perfectly curated everything, people pick up on that and
Mm-hmm.
they're just not interested in it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so crazy to see how much, really the marketing industry in general has changed since the rise of influencers. And now more and more, brands are showing their employees on social media and, sharing the stories behind the brand. And more so people are feeling more aligned with brands who give back to the community and really support, local, small, colored people, Black people and Asian and all that good stuff. Those kind of businesses are getting much more support, which is so incredible to see because, obviously in the past, those big corporations were the ones that were kind of getting all the attention. So now it's really great to see all these small businesses getting attention as well. So that's great.
Absolutely. Talk us through your recommended content creation process. Like where should somebody begin? What are some steps that they can take to start really creating content?
Yeah, so for me, my structure is very simple, with clients as well, and I do it for myself as well. First things first, come up with a solid goal, a goal that's really tangible, realistic, and time bound, right? So something that you can actually achieve. within a certain time frame. So really understanding what it is that you're doing, like I said, whether you're launching or whether you want to grow a community, you want to get more clients with your content, all of that is really going to affect what kind of content you're posting, how often, if you need to do engagement, how often, and all that good stuff. So that's like the number one goal. And then I like to kind of dive into research. So we do a lot of different research. We do market research. You really want to understand your audience, what kind of language they use, and what they like to see in terms of content. Also, trend research is really great to kind of utilize, whether you're on TikTok or Instagram, or there's a lot of emerging trends, but that's not all of your content strategy. Obviously, you want to include some of your own content as well. We also do competitor research, kind of understanding if you're launching a new offer, let's say you want to understand the market, you want to see if there's pushback for pricing or what other people are offering, maybe how you can kind of fill a gap in the market, and that will really help you stand out. What else? Oh, and also past content research. That's really important. Just seeing what your own content and kind of how it performed in the past. And kind of really seeing what your audience likes, because everyone else's audience is so different. And that's why copying content oftentimes will really get you nowhere, because your audience wants to see different things. So something that works for someone is probably not going to work for you. And that's why it's so important to create your own strategy and not just go based off of like trends or like what this person is posting. And then definitely having like a solid content outline. So if you're doing a launch 3 months in advance, like what kind of content are you going to be posting? Really understanding, I need to post stories this many times a day, training, and then I need to post like results, like really having that solid outline to understand what you're going to be posting. And then I like to always include like next steps, because you can have a whole strategy and it's amazing, it's beautiful, but then it's not going to do anything for you if you don't actually implement it. So I like to go in my calendar, schedule out days for specific things I need to do to really make sure that I'm actually taking action and actually doing strategy in order for it to work. So that's just a basic outline I like to do.
Amazing. Yeah, lots of pieces. And I know people are listening going, oh my gosh, I don't have time.
It can definitely be a lot.
It is, but I want to remind everybody listening, look, I know, first of all, take a deep breath. It's okay. You're not the only one that feels overwhelmed by this. And two, I want to remind you that this is where a lot of your power is. Like, think about business even 10 years ago, especially further back, 20, 30 years ago. The only way to get in front of this many people this quickly, I mean, it just wasn't possible, right? Like you'd have to take out radio ads and newspaper ads and magazine ads and TV ads, like all this stuff that adds up to tens of thousands of dollars of marketing and advertising. You literally get to get in front of a limitless amount of people through your phone, right? Like through your desktop computer, through your iPad. Like this is really a lot of power. And when you put the strategy and build in the time, I know you may feel like I don't have time to do this. Honestly, if there's one thing I got to just tell you, you got to make time. You have to make time. If you're not growing, if you're not financially where you want to be yet, if you're not achieving the goals that you want yet, you have to make time, because this stuff doesn't just create itself. And it's also okay to ask for help, right? Like there's people like Elena who we're talking with today, and lots of other social media managers that help people get over this hump to really create a strategy, can do it with you. I saw on your website, you do it. You can do it for them, you can do it with them, or you can give them the tools and they do it themselves. Like there's a lot of different options. So I just think it's refreshing and a good reminder rather, that your social media is power and you can reach more people quicker than anybody else in history, like today, which is mind-blowing to me.
Totally. Yeah. And I kind of remember like a fun fact that I saw the other day. I think State Farm, the insurance, is actually opting out of doing a TV ad on the Super Bowl, I think it was. And they're actually doing TikTok instead. So they're really focusing on TikTok. Isn't that crazy? Like literally for like the Super Bowl is like one of the most like highest, like everybody wants to do an ad there, right? And the fact that they're ditching that for TikTok just goes to show you social media, it's incredible. And it really is, like you said, you get to really be in front of so many people And oftentimes it's for free. So it's like, why not? It's a no-brainer.
Yes. Yes. It does cost your time. And if you outsource, it costs for some help, but your return is literally limitless.
Exactly.
What would you say is the key to creating content that sells? Because look, let's be real, we can write words and share pictures all day long, but if it's not converting and we're not nurturing, it's just kind of going out, right? That can be really discouraging. So, what's the
Yeah.
key to creating content that actually transforms those people into buyers?
Definitely. So this is something that I've also, been really focusing heavily lately as well myself. And a really big part of that, I feel like, is attraction marketing. So like we kind of said briefly earlier, is really putting out content that makes people see it and go, oh my gosh, I need to book her right now. So, really utilizing your content. For service providers, it would be posts like, transformations that you did for clients or for yourself. Giving value at every single post, so really giving some tips or some quick wins that they can do, and really presenting yourself as an expert is showing up as an authority. So sharing, random fun facts like, I was featured in this magazine, or I help my clients do this, like whatever it is, you really want to make sure that you're showing up as the expert because there's so much competition, as I'm sure everyone is aware. So really standing out is going to be really important. So, and also having a really strong call to action. Sometimes people don't make sales because they don't ask for the sale, right? It's such a simple thing, but really making sure that at the end of your caption, at the end of your stories, at the end of your, tweet, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you have a call to action to redirect people to wherever it is that you want to redirect them to. If it's their email list, you just say, click the link in my bio, get your freebie, whatever it is, or book a call with me, send me a DM, ask for that action, and more often than not, people are going to do it if they're actually interested, and the content really spoke to them.
You
So
know,
those
that's a,
are, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, that was pretty much like the simple kind of tips I like to always give when it comes to selling. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really great reminder. Is like you have to remember to tell people what to do. Like,
Yeah.
you have to remember that, we are inundated with lots of information all day and all night,
Yeah.
right? Like more than ever. And so you may know what the next step is because you're close to it. It's yours. You
Hmm.
created it. But people don't pick up on subtle hints on social media. they
Yeah.
they need to be told what to do. They need to be directed. They need, I think about TikTok, for instance. So TikTok's one of my favorite platforms to use.
Hmm.
And I find such a simple thing, but I find when I actually just ask people to follow or tell people to follow and put a little use a sticker to
Hmm.
like point an arrow towards my profile picture, my follows increase after I post that video. Like people just want to be told what to do next. And so it's a simple gesture but can really make a big difference.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's something that I see a lot as well. I go on someone's page and it's just all value and tips, and which is incredible. But at the end of the day, right, we're running a business, so we really need to make sure that we're actually, asking people to do whatever it is we need to do, and also being consistent with it. That was like the last thing I was going to say. Just really being consistent because there's this statistic, I forgot the exact numbers, but people need to see your offer like 7 to 12 different times before they actually buy into it, right? So that's where the strategy comes in. So you need to post really consistently. It doesn't even have to be every day. A couple times a week, really showing up on stories and talking about your offer because, like I said, people really need to remember and understand what it is you're selling, and it could take up to like 12 different times. So yeah.
There it is. Amazing. Any parting advice as we start to round out today for our listeners about creating a content strategy that converts?
Yeah, definitely. I would probably say don't like overthink it. It could take a lot of, kind of like we talked about earlier, it could get really overwhelming, and it can get really caught up with the research and making sure you're doing the perfect post. But I always like to say, take action, but take an imperfect action, because if you're going to wait until you're ready or until the content is perfect or until you have this many followers to start selling, you're probably never going to like actually sell. And it's really much easier to just take imperfect action. You'll get better as you do it more, and that's where practice really comes in. Is that you truly only get better with practice, and as long as you're showing up, and like we said, consistency is really great. So the more you post, the more people see you, the more they become familiar. And literally, oftentimes people forget like what you would write about sometimes. So it's like they would read it, they're like, okay, value, great, this girl knows what she's talking about. It's almost like, you know, you go to school and then you're so worried about your shoes that people are going to hate it. And then the next day, nobody remembers what shoes you're wearing. So it's like
Yes.
overthinking the little things is going to only set you back. And really just remember that, you know, the more you're showing up, the more you're selling essentially as well, is really what's going to take you to that next level. So
Amazing. I love imperfect action. That is beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Elena, I know that you have a pretty cool offer that you'd like to share with our listeners. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that, and then where can everyone find out more about you?
Definitely. So I love having my intensive offer because obviously I do a lot of done for you work, but I did notice that some people, you know, are not ready necessarily to, you know, or not, they don't have a huge budget either. So I kind of met them in the middle. So we have our amazing strategy intensive offer. So it's 90 minutes. We just sit on a call, we strategize, we brainstorm, we go over anything and everything they want. And then I actually take my own time and go in there and research and do all the things that we just talked about, create a whole strategy for you. It can be up to like 20 pages. So you get the full thing with implementable action steps. And then we also have one-way posture support. So it's like a messaging voice notes app, so that you can ask me any questions along the way as you're implementing and really making sure that you're utilizing the strategy and, you know, you're actually going to see results from it. So that could be, all the information could be found, you know, on my website or on my Instagram as well. And my Instagram is that girl from LA. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we will make sure to link that offer in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. Elena, thanks so much for sharing your time with us today. I'd love to know, what does the word gutsy mean to you?
So yeah, I definitely love the name. And when I think of that, it's just really going after what you want. So it's like really having the guts to do it, right? And really going after your dreams. And that's why I love like the name as well, because it kind of reminds me of the story of like, you know, me sitting in my one bedroom or like basement apartment and looking at all the goals and, you know, really having that courage and guts to really go out there and get what you want. And obviously, you know, sharing everyone's stories, everyone else's experience on the podcast is really great to see. And it really does show you that like anything is possible if you really go after it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Look, it takes gutsy to go from a New York City basement apartment to a beautiful apartment in LA. Thanks so much for sharing your time and your knowledge with us. I'm excited to share your offer with our audience, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
On this Thursday's Power Back episode, we're going to talk more about your social media tools. Elena and I touched on a few different tools and how they work, but I'd love to just dig into that a little bit further by undoing the tools that you may or may not be using yet. I know that there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot to choose from. So I'm going to share my personal favorites and how and why they work fantastic so that you can make an educated decision on the tools that you want to use in your business. Head over to lauraora.com to sign up for the ongoing masterclass series. Link up with me on TikTok using @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.